Welcome to the Revenue Rewired podcast, hosted by StringCan Interactive's visionary CEO, Jay Feitlinger, and no-nonsense COO, Sarah Shepard. We're here to accelerate your revenue and give your marketing purpose. All right, hello and welcome everybody to this episode of the Revenue Rewired podcast. Hi, Susan.
Hi, how are you, Sarah?
Good. I always start with hi, Jay. And I did this with the last guest I had. I had to consciously make sure I didn't say hi, Jay to you.
Yeah,
I could see your face, which makes it easier.
I
So
just answer. I'd just make it easy for you and be like,
yeah,
"Hi,
you would. You
Sarah."
just blow right through it. Well, I am really excited about today's episode because it's relevant, recent, and Susan's an amazing conversationalist and really super smart. So thanks
Wow,
for being
thanks.
on the podcast, Susan.
I'm excited to be here, especially now.
Yes, me too. And this topic I think is a mystery, and this is why you're so popular in your speaking gigs with this particular area of expertise, is we want to talk about what buyers actually want and why you keep guessing. And,
Mhm.
Susan, where I think you offer our guests a lot of value is that you kind of demystify and speak in real people terms. And you've
Ooh.
coined a lot of unique terms yourself, but I do truly, and I'm not saying this because you're my friend, truly, you really truly speak to people in a way that um, it humbles me and that I can do a better job of explaining to individuals a complex topic. And I think you just do a spectacular job at that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I credit my sister, who is the queen of this, and I learned from her. She also is a statistician, presents complicated data to people who are not statisticians, and does a lovely, lovely job of explaining it without making people feel dumb.
Yeah, that is a gift. So kudos to the fam. Well, I will do a proper intro for Susan, the founder and CEO of Audience Audit, which is a research agency that helps business owners and thought leaders build their reputation and ROI through original research. And Susan's worked in marketing strategy for 40 years,
Lots of years.
um, lots of years. Great experience with agencies, Fortune 500. And you've even built, and this is what I was talking about with your customization and phraseology, is the methodology called attitudinal segmentation that groups buyers by the beliefs they hold rather than demographic or firmographic data. And your
Yeah.
clients have included Jay Baer, Neen James. Your research has been featured in Forbes, HubSpot, Content Marketing Institute, Marketing Profs. You've spoken at Inbound, Content Marketing World, and annually at the Build a Better Agency Summit, affectionately known as BABA.
Uh-huh.
And your most recent work pairs two 2026 very recent studies, one of nearly 600 agency leaders and one of 400 of their clients. And so you've
Mm.
got 1,000 perspectives, which if you're not a data nerd, I consider myself a mini nerd. That is a statistically significant amount of people, I would say.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. On both sides. Yep. Enough,
yeah,
as
and
my sister would say, I tasted enough of the soup to know what's in the whole pot.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
I
and the
did.
gap between those groups is, what we're going to dig into today. And so,
Hmm.
welcome to the pod.
Thank
Um,
you.
Here is, I want to go back to the attitudinal segmentation piece. Most people have heard of buyer personas, and what is the difference and why does it matter?
Well, I think, you know, persona is just a name for something that describes, say, one of your prospect audiences or something like that. It's a description of someone. I think most personas that people see are demographic largely in nature, either for an individual or they profile a business based on size and revenue and are they B2B or B2C or whatever. Things you can see about someone on paper. Um, the thing is, the magic, I think, in marketing, in understanding an audience, in messaging effectively to an audience, and serving the problems of an audience, often have very little to do with those demographic characteristics. Um, they have more to do with how people think about a problem, how much confidence they have in their ability to solve it, how they like to go about solving it, how they value this versus that. And those things you cannot see on paper. So attitudinal personas or mindsets or whatever, people can create them a lot of different ways. But I think they give you a nuance that helps you not just understand what people are doing or what they look like, but why they're doing what they're doing, why they're struggling more than other people are with something. And you know, I spent a lot of years in marketing sitting around conference tables with 8 people trying to come up with what we thought was driving our clients' audience or our brand's audience and buyers. I just prefer to know with more solidity instead of guessing. I just like that myself. And this approach gives you an opportunity to do that with statistically reliable quantitative research approaches so that you're not guessing. And it's not based on the 5 people who actually showed up to your focus group. Not that there's anything wrong with focus groups, but you know, quantitative research gives you confidence that other kinds of research just aren't able to give you. And this approach blends quantitative data with really fascinating insights about how people think about things, your category, this particular problem, their organization, in a way that you can't get otherwise.
And it sounds to me like, if I'm an outsider, I'm like, what you're trying to help me uncover what my buyers believe,
Mm-hmm,
which I like, to your point about the certainty. I want the hard data. So
mm-hmm.
when a company comes to you, what do they typically believe about their own buyers, and how often is that accurate?
Well, I mean, we work with experts by definition. We're working with agency leaders, we're working with consultants, speakers. I mean, if you've survived in an agency that's been around for more than 5 years, you're doing far better than most, right? So there's, you know, my clients always have beliefs and assumptions based on their experience about their prospects, and our clients have them about their customers or whatever. The problem is that may not be a complete picture. So what I typically see is a combination of, oh yeah, that doesn't surprise us at all, and oh really, that's interesting, right? Because it's very easy to think of your audience as monolithic. You know, your targeting may be monolithic, right? We love to work with people who feel this way about this thing and have this particular problem that they're trying to solve. And we can put them all in one circle on the Venn diagram. Um, but it's interesting to realize that that Venn diagram may have 4 or 5 circles that all intersect around that problem, but have very different perspectives in terms of, have they tried to solve it before? Why didn't it work? How confident are that they even know what to look for to help them solve it? There's just a lot of factors that can come into play. So most of my clients see something that they didn't expect to see. And often it's in this attitudinal mindset work that they realize, okay, not everybody's on the same plane here around this problem. And we can't speak to them the same way. You know, we have to think of our audiences a little more varied than we have been.
Is the attitudinal segmentation piece, would you say it really does need to still complement your demographics and kind of your, I'll call it more boring data than like, are you blending the two together with equal weight, or is one supporting the other? Or is one kind of is there a chicken egg situation there? Like if a
Mm,
company's never heard of this before, and
mm-hmm,
they're thinking, okay, I feel like my demographic data is excellent. And I
mm-hmm,
and I don't know if this is part of the problem, but most outbound marketing is based on really hard signals that you can easily
mm-hmm,
identify in a tool like LinkedIn, or
mm-hmm.
you're creating email campaigns. How do you take any of that attitudinal and give it the space to create the openings for those kinds of conversations with outbound marketing, or something like that?
Well, my belief is that you have to have both. It's not that one is better than the other or more valid than the other. That what The insights come from bumping them up against each other. So the attitudinal mindsets that we create um, are developed solely by asking people to rate a series of statements, right? I think peanut butter is bad for you. I agree completely. I disagree completely, or something in the middle, right? 40 of those things. There are no demographics at all that go into the analysis that identifies the mindsets that bubble up from that data. We don't know how many segments we're going to get. We don't know what's going to define them. We don't know how big they are until the data reveals that. So it's really the respondents of a survey that create those segments, not us determining it ahead of time. And we also collect information about their companies, about themselves, about their families, about their jobs, that kind of stuff. Because what happens is then you can look through the lens of those mindsets and see if people are different on things, right? So I will tell you 90% of the time, we don't see significant differences in company size or how old you are or what your gender is around those attitudes, where people might expect you to see something. Oh, this is the big companies that are feeling really good about their organization's ability to do this. And this is the small ones that are really struggling. And often we see that's not the case at all. Sometimes we see really interesting things. When we do higher education work, often we'll see something very interestingly different on the attitudes of freshmen compared to folks who are past that first year of college, right? So, but we collect both so that because the problem is if you are targeting your ad spends on demographic data, which is very common. That's how media is often bought, a lot of other things, right? You don't actually know for sure whether that woman who's 28 years old, has 2 kids and a Volvo, is reading, The Atlantic or reading Guns and Gardens. You just like there's not a great way to know that, and our assumptions can blind us to things that make real differences between people. So our studies include both, and it's fascinating to go through and bump that segment data up against what people say is happening to them, what they're experiencing, what kind of tools they're using, where they're looking for help to their solution, to their problem. Those things are really interesting, so that you'll see one group that leans heavily on LinkedIn and another group that doesn't at all. And that allows you to target your messaging better on LinkedIn. I tell people working with this type of data is more fishing than hunting. You can't see these attitudes when you look at someone on paper. You can't see them. So what you have to do is put out information that they will find interesting or helpful or enticing, that speaks to them and makes people go, wow, you know me really, really well, right? But it's not like, nobody likes that email that says, hello, woman 25 to 49. Like, that's not very compelling. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what our media buying does, right? It's like, oh, great. You buy
It's more
Vogue.
personal than hello name.
Yes, it is. It is a little more personal. But I personally I'm not a huge fan of well, you're 28, have 2 kids and a Volvo, so you must be overworked and safety obsessed. Nope. Like, you and I can both line up a whole line of people who are just like us in terms of age, gender, income level, family makeup, and everybody will pick a different vacation to go on, right? And
That's why it's so hard to plan a family vacation.
it's very much the same thing. Yes, exactly right. You need to find people who group together on other stuff.
That is really, really fascinating. And, I'm going to ask you a question that I don't know if you're going to hate this question, but I warned you in advance.
I don't hate any of your questions.
Your research it has quite a lot of respondents, which makes the data, honestly, I think more compelling. What was your biggest aha from the agency study and your biggest aha from the client study?
My biggest aha from the agency study was how optimistic agencies are right now.
Oh, tell me more about that, because for my listeners here, this is not the first year Susan's done this study. You've done this for how many years now? So you've seen this
13.
data grow.
The agency leader study I first did in 2022. The agency client study with Drew McClellan of Agency Management Institute, we've been doing since 2014. So this is our 13th annual study on the
Yeah,
client
so
side.
you've been asking similar types of questions and
Yep,
you've kind of like seen this cohort grow. So it's kind of
yep,
in a way, a long-term study for those agencies that have maybe survived for multiple years
it
to
is. It is. I mean,
participate.
I'm an agency and I serve agencies. So it's an audience I'm in and an audience I work to help. And it's just been a fascinating journey learning a lot on sort of both sides of the house. And like you, I have a lot of conversations with agency leaders. And I think it's very easy to feel like everybody's having a really tough time and it's doom and gloom. But when we look at significant percentages of agency leaders who are responding to a survey anonymously, um, they feel very optimistic and positive about how things are going overall. It doesn't mean that
Why
there
were
aren't
you
folks out there
surprised though?
struggling
Were you expecting
because
negativity?
I was. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the general message in the agency world has been sort of like, wow, it's been a really tough couple of years. You know, clients are slower to sign, trust is hard to get, businesses are struggling with issues that are economic and beyond our control. And, either we've had to let people go or we can't get good people. It's just, I think I love. I love agencies. It's why I chose to start an agency and why I love to work with them. I love agency people, but we do tend to be a little bitchy about like, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the sky is falling, and complain about stuff. And the agency core study just revealed the level of optimism that is maintained today by most agency leaders, even in the face of significant challenges that they tackle. And I think part of that is if you've been in the agency business for any period of time, you know how crazy it is. The ups and downs that sometimes are within our control and sometimes are not. You just kind of have to get used to them and learn how to deal with them and adapt, or you're not going to survive very long. So I think for all our complaining, agency folks have a pretty thick skin.
Mm.
And I was just really happy to show a lot of agencies at that conference with that data how optimistic their peers are. Because I think sometimes if you're struggling, it's very easy to feel like everybody's in the same boat. And it's good to know that there are folks who are surviving and thriving in an environment, and what they're doing is not out of reach for you to do too, which is one of the
Mm.
really powerful findings from that particular study, which I know we'll be talking about, is that optimism, and then seeing what the folks who are really succeeding, who are really struggling far less than the rest of us with some really key challenges, what they're doing to make that happen, because it's
Mm.
not magic. They're not bigger, they're not richer, they're not more experienced. They're just like all the rest of us. They're just doing some things differently that are helping them uh, more than the rest of us.
I like that. And now, what
Mm-hmm.
was your biggest aha from the client side one?
The biggest aha from the client side is similar, but a lot of what we explored this year was around agency value with clients. In the age of AI, a lot of agencies in particular have felt like the sky is falling and all of our clients want to fire us because they can just replace us with AI. This is sort of a bugaboo, right? The research this year overwhelmingly demonstrates tremendous faith in and support for agencies on the part of clients who hire them. And really overwhelmingly a feeling that agencies are an absolutely essential component of having a successful business and being able to achieve the goals that they want to achieve, which I think was reassuring to a lot of folks who I know from the data think clients don't want us anymore, or wants us to cut all of our rates, or want to replace us, or can't wait to. And it's really the opposite. This is an incredibly opportunity filled time for agencies. And it saddens me to think that so many don't see that yet and don't understand that opportunity and are afraid that it's the end of agencies. And it's just could not be further from the truth based on our data. So, I'm a perennial optimist and I like helping other people see the possible in their environment, even when they struggle. We all do, right? But it was wonderful this year to be able to share such good news on both fronts for agency leaders. So overall, that's my favorite thing that we found in both of those studies combined. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, do you
It's a good
think that,
time to be an agency.
it is?
It
And
is.
speaking of that, with agencies are their own animal. We were just having this internal conversation about that yesterday and how it just is special. Like we think we're special
Mm-hmm.
because we are in a weird way. I've worked in a lot of different industries, building code legislation, higher education, and I can say the agency space is one of the craziest, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
medical, that's another level, but when you're talking about like for example, you have a stat that 82% of clients say transparency about AI use increases their trust in agencies. Now, this is a hypothetical on your part. Do you think that some of these, especially AI related stats, could apply to general population businesses and not just agencies? I mean, are you kind of seeing that with some of the other work you're doing with other clients? Or are they even, it seems like there's a huge disconnect between clients and companies, not just agencies, in terms of the conversations about AI.
I think that agencies have always led the charge with respect to new technologies. I've been around long enough to remember when websites came around, when social media came around as marketing opportunities. Um, and while agencies have the reputation of basically like manipulating and using every possible new technology to try to get people to buy things, which drives everybody crazy, um, part of our responsibility to our clients is to understand the technology that is on the forefront of making them able to reach and connect with and motivate an audience. So I don't think AI is new in that respect. And I also think that everyone, including apparently the people who are building it, right, still there's a lot unknown about AI. Not just about where it's going, but about where it is right now. So I think culturally, everybody wants more transparency around AI. I do a lot of speaking around trust, as you know, and we are in a moment, not just in the United States, but across the world where trust is really diminished in most everything, government, religion. And, last year, Edelman found that 59% of buyers assume that people like you and I, business leaders, are intentionally lying to them to get their money. That means that when we have a prospect that we're meeting for the first time, it's more than likely that they distrust us immediately. And we have to correct that before we can even start building trust with them. So that's a tall order. It's hard to know whether you can trust what you see, what you hear, what you read, any of that now. And in that environment, transparency is the sunshine, right? Um, I think that, when we first started asking about AI last year in the agency client study and in the agency core study, we found that on the client side, clients were like, are you using AI to do marketing for us, agencies? I don't know. Are you using it? How are you using it? We're not really hearing very much. Or should we be using it? It was a lot of confusion around this. And on the agency side, people are like, yeah, we're not talking about it because we're afraid it'll get us fired, right? They'll just want to dump us if this new technology plays out. This year was very different. Clients know we're using AI. They know their agencies are using it. And they are fine with us using it as long as we are using it to further the efforts that they hired us for in the first place and not getting distracted by it being some kind of shiny object that we're having fun with on their dime while ignoring why they hired us. Um, and this year we saw more agencies being fully transparent with their clients, but not enough, right? Only 25% of agency leaders in our study say they are completely transparent about how they're using AI. And clients overwhelmingly say that seeing that transparency builds trust in agencies. So here's one of the first gaps, right? We have to talk about AI and we have to be honest about the fact that there are things that we don't know yet. There are risks that we are watching and making strategic decisions around. How we are protecting client data, which is something they're very concerned of. Clients have a lot of risk with their marketing. Somebody can sue them for something that they say, and they hold agencies responsible for knowing about that and avoiding that problem. So I'm telling clients these days, there's a surprising number of us as agencies that don't have an AI use policy, which our friend Sharon Turek the lawyer will say, well, that's a risk for your agency, right? But I think it's a tremendous lost opportunity to show our clients that we are on the forefront of this technology. We're learning it, we're monitoring it, we're working to use it safely and ethically and protect their brand, protect their data. But we don't know everything yet. And I think clients would be very reassured to hear all of that. I'm advising my clients to put their AI policy on their website, ungated, where anybody can look at it and see what that is. And ideally, tie it to your values as an agency. There's a reason you're using AI the way you are. There's a reason you're putting the guardrails around it the way you are. And they're tied to what you believe your job is as an agency and how you respect the relationship with your clients. And that's a great opportunity to remind your prospects, but also your clients too, like what you really stand for. And AI is just one more tool in the can that we use in a particular way based on our belief system around how we approach the work that we do.
Is that pun intended? One more tool in the can.
Yeah, one more tool in the can.
Question though on
it's just
that is
one opportunity.
Yeah, how though does that meld with the fact that the research is also showing that almost 30% of clients are expecting agencies to reduce their fees? There's a true tangible fear there that my transparency will equal a cost conversation. Now,
Yeah.
my uneducated but experiential opinion here is that those individuals who might be saying that are not thinking long term. Like everyone's asked me, we use AI hours, like we are amazing
Mm-hmm.
at it. And I'm not just saying that, like
Mm-hmm.
we push each other hard. Part of it is
Mm-hmm.
we're driven by fear and we're really good at
Mm-hmm.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
someone asked me the other day, so how much time have you found that that's been saving you a week? And I'm like, zero. I said, I
Right.
actually go home and fix scripts that I broke because
Mm-hmm.
I needed to change my prompt. I actually work longer and harder because I'm trying to build AI. Like, for example, we were laughing how 6 months ago you couldn't get ChatGPT to build you a deck that looked
Right.
decent. Now you can import and just add your template to Gemini and it will redo the entire thing. You can create a
Yeah.
deck in Claude in seconds. I can do it inside my project management system.
Yep.
So for me, I'm not saving any time at all. I am delivering what I think is a more thorough product. It's more thoughtful, it's long term, it's strategic, it's considering missing pieces that I
Mm-hmm.
might have missed earlier because of all the connections inside all the tools now. So how does
Mm-hmm.
that resonate with that almost, 30% who want cost cutting?
So a couple of things. What you're describing you're doing with AI is exactly what clients tell us they want their agencies doing as a result of AI. They want better ideas, they want more ideas, they want more effective strategies, they want better, not cheaper. Saving us money is way down the list, literally down the list in terms of the percentage you say that is important to them. It's about harnessing AI to do better work for them, which is what they want. There is a small group that says that they would consider getting rid of an agency to save money. But it's the same group that also says that they believe that basic publicly available AI platforms can deliver professional marketing for anybody who uses those. When we asked last year what tools they were, what AI tools they were using, they were literally ChatGPT, Canva, and Grammarly
Oh no.
that they
Oh
listed,
no.
right? So I think that there is, and I don't want to demean any agency clients out there who have a different opinion on this. I think for a lot of those folks, their understanding of what really creates effective marketing is limited. And
Mm.
so they don't have the strategy behind stuff. They're just, we see it all the time. We see people whipping up websites, we see people whipping up ads, and you're just like, nope, nope, nope. But they're easy to do and they're cheap to do. And there is a population in this client audience that just wants to get stuff done as expediently as they can, as inexpensively as they can. And that's no different than it was before AI. There's always that. My uncle's brother's nephew's neighbor can build my website for me. Agencies have been hearing that kind of stuff for a long time. So what clients overwhelmingly want in all of the groups is better work as a result of AI. And I think that's what most agencies are doing. And that is something that is not replaceable, that strategy stuff. And I think this is going to be this whole I want to pay less is going to be a much bigger issue for agencies that are on hourly based retainers than it is for agencies that are building their expertise, demonstrating that expertise, and charging for it on a project basis for the quality of the work and the expertise and that goes into it. But there's always going to be a percentage of clients. We've in 13 years of doing that study with Drew of agency clients, we've always seen a segment of clients that want to get away cheaper if they can. I don't think that's ever going to change, but that's not what the bulk of clients want from us at all.
That's fair. It is more of a consistent piece of data that's going to show up no matter what, because frankly, I think your audience that you're surveying is also probably being directed top down to just continue to cut costs. It's, tough
Mm-hmm.
for some industries. And I think at some point it's probably reasonable to make the inference that anywhere from 20, maybe 15 to 25% of an industry would be struggling at any given time in the economy, and maybe
Yep.
now more so than others. But I, I'm I'm kind of pleased to hear that, but it does seem like there's a huge disconnect between client expectations and this fear that is holding agencies back from being really transparent, and sharing like the, and I think this is one of our issues is we feel like we're still experimenting 4 years
Sure.
in. We didn't actually sell any AI services until this year because we weren't confident that it was going to stay stable long enough for us to
Sure.
actually implement. And we have
Right.
found a couple of our services, unfortunately, mid development, the pricing structure completely changed. And
Yeah.
so we're like, well, that is a really big bugaboo for the client. I love that word. I'm going to steal it. And it just is, it feels it really hinders the agency's ability to say, I feel like I'm an expert in because we can't. And
So,
you also said agents 86% of agency leaders say reputation as an expert is what clients
mhm.
value most.
And they're
So
right.
how do we?
They're absolutely right. That is the truth. And I think that when you talk about the decisions you made around some of those AI tools you were building and stuff like that, this is exactly what I mean about building trust based on how you're using AI and your conversations around it. Because the decisions you made say something about you as an agency and how you view your responsibility to your clients. And, you're being careful. That's a good thing to say. That's a reassuring thing for clients to hear. And there's a reason that you made those decisions. And it's about who StringHand is as an agency. And I've known you guys for a very, very long time. And the ethics and the care with which you proceed, coupled with your interest in the newest technology and really developing an expertise in those tools, dovetails perfectly into who you are. But the people who I think are, and I keep saying I think, and the reality is there's just data around this. So I don't have to think it. I can just say it. The people, the agencies that are struggling, and I think will continue to struggle and be at great risk, are the ones who are using AI to do things anybody can do, tactical stuff. Because what clients want is our brains. They want our expertise. They want it from a trusted source that says, hey, StringCan's really, really smart at this, or Sarah's just one of the really great speakers and thought leaders around this topic. That's what clients want. I'm sure you do. I do things that are tactical in nature in running my own agency that I used to have to pay somebody to do. And now I don't, right? Because I can just do that. Everybody should be doing that. That's what this technology is about. And I understand there are huge challenges with what happens to those people who used to do that, right? I'm not saying that isn't a problem, but I don't fault somebody who's trying to run their business and gain some efficiencies from AI. But it's if the only thing you have to offer is efficiency as an agency, you're not going to last very long. And we see that in the data. The agencies that are strategic, that have a specialized expertise in a niche for an audience, for an industry, about a particular approach or problem, those are the ones who have far less trouble with pipeline, who have far less trouble getting paid what they're worth, who have far less trouble being viewed as different from their competitors when someone's choosing to hire. And so that's, if that's what you're doing with AI, then you probably don't want to be very transparent about it, because your client can turn around and just duplicate that and can get rid of you. The trick is, what are you doing? And it's always been the same with agencies. What are you doing that I can't do for myself? What do you know that I don't know? Right? How can I get your expertise? People don't want to pay for agencies. Nobody wants to pay for that. What they're paying for is the outcome they believe we give them because of the expertise and the talent that we have. And that just hasn't changed.
I love that. Okay, so even though we've talked a lot about your research and being around agencies, the pattern you're describing, which is sellers misreading the buyer mindset, it shows up
Yep,
everywhere in B2B. What's the
it
one
does.
thing a revenue leader can take from this and apply to their own business this week?
So that's a really interesting question. There is actually, can I give you two?
Of
Can I
course.
give you two things? Okay.
I should have expected it.
So, and these are the things that I'm thinking about very specifically in my business and advising my clients to do and stuff. The first is one of the really powerful trends that has happened over the course of the last 5 or so years around trust is that because it's so hard to believe what anybody says now, people are more and more turning to other experts that they already trust to tell them who else they can trust, right? It's that reputation. And we now see in this study with clients, we saw a 20-point differential between the percentage of clients who said that what an agency says about itself makes them believe that the agency's expertise is real, and what someone else they trust, another expert they trust, says about that agency in making them believe that the expertise is real. A 20-point gap. It's only widening. So, number one is you have to build a reputation for what you do with other people who serve your audience and who are trusted by your audience. You have to do that. So, it's making me think a lot about my content. That's a higher bar to get somebody to pay attention who's already an expert in front of your audience. What is my content doing to reach those folks, to talk to them, to help them understand what we do is different and what we do is special and it's highly valued by the people that we do it for, so that they can tell other people? Because reaching the prospects directly isn't enough anymore, because they don't believe us until they hear somebody they already trust talking about us or highlighting
Boy,
us on their
that is
podcast or whatever.
100% true. It's
Yep.
it's frustrating and exhausting because you're like, well, where do I go now? But you're giving people kind of that direction, and I love
Yep.
that.
Yep. The other thing is, one of the things we did in the agency study this year was if agencies cited like pipeline as a big problem that was a severe problem for their agency. We then asked them a follow-up question, open-ended, that said, what strategy do you believe would solve that problem, whether you're using it or not? And over half of the respondents who had the problem could name a very specific strategy in that open-ended type in the box, right? And then we asked them, to what extent is your agency embracing that strategy? 17%. So that's not even, are you listening to other experts and doing what they tell you? That is, are you listening to what you know will work for your organization to get where you need to be, to solve the problems you need to be? And only 17% who could name a strategy said that they're embracing that. And that is
Was there a why? Is a why? The gap is so
sure,
huge.
there's lots of whys, and it's we're so busy with client work, we're trying to learn AI, there's always a million things. And I'm an agency leader, and I am one of those cobbler's kids. Like, I drop research all the time, I teach people how to use research for thought leadership, and I'm terrible at maintaining consistent content around what I do. There's just always all these other things to do. And we just see it so strongly in the data. If you're out there and you know there's a strategy that you believe would help solve a core problem that your organization is experiencing, I urge you to just take an hour a week and work on actually putting that strategy into place. How do you make that happen? How do you make small steps? 1 hour a week, 30 minutes a week. Just stop pushing it off. Because what I will tell you, Sarah, is that the agencies in the research that are doing really well, all they're doing is implementing the strategies that they believe in. And that's something any of us can do. They are literally, when we look at those agencies, they're no richer. They don't have more revenue. They don't have more people. They haven't been around longer. They're just like the rest of us. They're just putting stuff into action. I talked to an agency earlier this week that decided at the beginning of 2025 that they just really needed to niche down, shift what they were doing, get really focused, and they upended everything and did it. And 18 months later, things are growing great gangbusters for them. Their pipeline is full. They're really busy. Their rates are up. But the only difference between them and the rest of us is that they did it. They just bit the bullet. And that's the other thing that I think all of us can probably do better, is try to make time to actually enable the strategies that we think would help solve the business problems, instead of just thinking about them and saying, maybe next week I'll get to that. So those two are what I'm internalizing. Who's my content going to? Where's it going to have the most impact? How am I building a reputation for what I do? And what am I doing every week to make progress on something that I know, because I've seen 15 years of data across all types of industries, that I know will address the issues that I complain about in my business. And I think those trends are universal, I would expect.
Well, it's my head is resonating with the fact that like so many people know how they need to be healthier, and you could list off 800 things and it would probably be a similar number, like less than 20% are actually doing those things, because there's something about human psychology where we know what we need to do. We just have the hardest time doing it. And
Yep.
I advocate for having someone else outside the room kicking your butt into doing it, which is why I teach yoga, but I suck at practice. I have to have a teacher being my like holding me accountable to
Yeah,
going to class. I don't want
for
to
sure.
disappoint the teacher. So I go to
Sure.
class, but I would have otherwise been that 17%. I know what I need to do to be better at this practice, but I don't
Yep.
do it because
And,
whatever.
and for me, it's I have to hold off on doing something I really enjoy until I get that thing done first. Like, I can't,
Mm.
I won't,
Like the
I
carrot, you
love,
dangle the carrot in front of
yeah,
yourself.
it's like I love my chai in the morning, but I have to do my yoga before I can have it, because it's the only way. I have to build a practice, right? So there are tons of different techniques for doing this. Our friend Pam Slim has a wonderful program called Tiny Marketing Actions. If you struggle in your business to just reach out and do a little bit of marketing every day. And it's absolutely brilliant. And it's just little tiny steps that we make. So I think any of us can make little tiny steps, but the data is absolutely clear on this with regard to agencies and how we solve our problems, because it shows up. It's the people doing that are, man, they got a way easier time than we have. And they're doing some specific things to make that happen. They're niching, they're building a reputation, they're marketing their niche, not just keeping it a secret. You know, and they're being transparent about AI, and they're bringing new ideas to their clients. And there's just so many things that would probably make a dent. We just have to do a little hard work ourselves in the midst of what's inevitably a very busy week for all of us. But I have faith that we can get there. I have faith.
And I hope that anyone listening to this knows we appreciate the time you're spending listening to this. And
indeed,
Susan, where we will put a link to the research series on the show notes, but where
Terrific.
can people find you?
Audienceaudit.com, LinkedIn, Susan B.A.Z. And you can always just email me, susan@audienceaudit.com. All of this data is out there for everybody to look at. We do it to help ourselves and agencies. So do visit, take advantage of it. I hope it helps you. And if anybody has any questions about it, I'm always happy to answer it. It's my joy to talk about it, for sure.
Yeah, she's
if
not
you can't
saying
tell.
That. It's true.
Yeah. My husband says my problem isn't talking, it's stopping.
Oh, Ron. I'm going to save my comments for after the show, but well, Susan, I really appreciate your time and expertise, and I know that we'll be doing this again sometime soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share some of the insights that we found. I hope it's helpful for folks. Yeah.
Yes. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Revenue Rewired podcast. Send us your questions to podcast@stringcaninteractive.com and follow us for more insights to drive your business forward.